Hey there, gang. Hi, welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Todd Nauck, professional comic book artist, and yeah, I'm doing my third live YouTube live art broadcast. So, parts 1 and 2 did the line work for this Spider-Man Venom piece. So now we're going to finish it up here with part 3. This might change before the end of the year, but right now it's the last convention for 2017. All right, so it looks like we're already having connectivity problems here with the internet. Hopefully this doesn't really jack up the broadcast. I really don't know what's going wrong here. I don't have... Yeah, it's a really strange problem. Hopefully it won't really affect the art or the broadcast. So, what was I saying? Hopefully, I don't know where I got cut off for you guys, but it cut off where I was saying, I'll do my best to answer questions while I color, but a lot of focus will be going into the art as always. Hopefully there's time. Again, I'll do a Q&A at the end of the show. And as far as projects to look out for, Spider-Man Deadpool issue 21 is in stores now. Issue 22, the second part of our story, is in stores next Wednesday. And I also have a Thor one-shot coming out October 25th, as well as some really cool variant covers coming out down the pike with Marvel. So keep an eye out for all those things. So let's flip the camera around and get to coloring. There we go. Get plugged back into the rig here. Please pardon me while I adjust. Oh, looks like we might nail it here in one. Get a little closer to the art for y'all. Stabilize, focus. And we're good. We're good. So, hope everyone's doing well. Let's just jump right into this. We're going to start with the foreground. Going to start with Spidey first, starting with the reds, R27 as my base red. Light coming down from the above a little bit to our left. So I'm going to put a little more red on this side, leaving white of the board for highlights to come. So I just want to sculpt each muscle group with the red. Always keeping in mind the light source, where it's coming from. Shadows will come in later. Hello, everybody. And, but right now it's just base color. But I consider the shape of each muscle as to how I either shadow or highlight the figure. And there's also reflected light and things like that. So I just kind of eyeball how I want or where some highlights or shadows will be. But a majority of them will be coming from the direct light source. So pectoral muscles, then the kind of rib cage / abdomen area. Keeping all these things in mind. Have I thought about drawing the homemade Spider-Man suit from Homecoming? I have drawn it for the Spider-Man Homecoming Prelude comic, but as far as doing an art broadcast, I should really consider that. That's a pretty popular costume, huh? So try to remember to hit all the shades of red first. I like to work each color in its entirety, if I can, when I can remember. Which areas I'm working on or what I want to color. This makes it easier than having to go back and remember what color did I use for this one part and got to go back and grab it again. It's easier if I hit it all at once. Now, I like to use oranges for my highlights. I think it gives a real cool as in sick, not cool as in cold. I think it's cool looking. Warmth and vibrancy to Spidey. So that was the red was the R27, now I'm using the YR68. YR68. would I consider drawing Superman for Marvel if I was offered it? Dude, if Marvel somehow got Superman, that would be an industry shakeup. That would be amazing if Marvel had Superman. That'd be so weird. That yeah, I definitely would draw Superman for Marvel. Heck, I'd draw Superman for DC still. So I have done some work for Superman over at DC, and but really interesting question. Wow, that's really out of the box. Is it stressful drawing in front of people at cons? You know, it isn't for me now because I've been doing it for so long. But when I first did it, my first convention as a pro, I was so young, and I was so nervous. And I'm brand new, working for Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios in the early days of Image Comics. I'm at the Image Comics booth, which is just flooded with fans and pros and everything, at San Diego Comic-Con back in the 90s. And it was overwhelming, but it's like, dude, this is my first time at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm here as a pro, and people want sketches from me. It's like, so am I good? I knew I was going to either freeze up or rise to the occasion. I was kind of like on the high dive, and I had to make a choice. And it's like, you know what? I'm a pro. I have no excuse. I got to go for it. So I just went for it. I got over my insecurities of drawing in front of people, because I had that ever since I was a kid. Hated drawing in front of people. I hated for people to watch me. I used to sit at my desk hunched over my art so no one could see me or see what I was drawing. At least through elementary school and through junior high and into early high school. By later high school, I was known as the art kid. So, everybody knew I was wanting to be a comic book artist by that point. So it's like I wasn't quite as self-conscious. But yeah, at first at cons, definitely, I had to get over that really fast. And I got over it in that moment. You know, it's just like, okay, let's go for it. And it's just kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off. I just stopped worrying about it and just went for it, and yeah, cured in one moment. But it was kind of one of those live or die moments, baptism by fire moments. You just you either do or you don't. And I did, and I'm thankful that I did, because if I hadn't, who knows if I would have ever been able to recover. Or I'm sure I would have found a way to have developed the confidence to draw in front of people and not feel terribly self-conscious. Oh, so I used some YR12 for the highlight there, and then some R24 to blend it all through. Alright, so I'll be coming in with grays here a little bit later, but that's after I get all the main colors in. So let's do the blues of Spidey's costume. I'm going to start with some B05. I have to remember to say which marker I'm using at any given spot. Or every time I change colors. So again, still leaving some white of the board for the lighter shades to come in. What character am I planning to draw next? You know what? I have no idea. No idea what character will be on my next broadcast. So you just never know. Heck, I never know what to expect. Did I watch G.I. Joe and Transformers growing up? Absolutely I did. Two of my favorite cartoons when I was a kid. I'm an 80s kid for the most part. So definitely grew up through the 80s. And so I love all the 80s stuff. Have I ever considered using Twitch? Yes, I have. I've spoken with people at Twitch, and I'm looking into starting up a channel there. Alright, so that takes care of the B05. Now I'm going to power down to a B04. Just a slightly lighter shade. Ah, you're a tattoo artist. Yeah, well, you have no choice but to draw in front of people because you have at least one person, your client, there that you are drawing on. Now, I don't think I could do tattoos. That seems way too final for me. Maybe I'll see the way I start an illustration. It's really scribbly, so I don't think I would have the freedom to scribble on a person's body to break down the shapes of what it is I want to draw. Now I'm going to come in with some B12. I saw a question about Doctor Who, but I missed it. What was my favorite, was it episode, were you asking? Not sure what the specifics were of your question, but if it was simply asking what's my favorite episode of Doctor Who, I'd probably say Blink is probably way up there. That's a really good one. Definitely one of my favorites. Oh, and that was some B12 that I was using. I think I'd mentioned that. So let's start to add some reflection to his lenses. My favorite episode. Why did I like Blink so much? Well, I think the way they told the story, and the Doctor Who speaking through DVDs, and the mystery of it all, and Sally Sparrow. It was her only one. She only had one episode, but man, they did it really well. So yeah, definitely I'd say that's one of my favorite episodes off the top of my head. A little B01. There's B000, now some B01. Do I use the same grip when I'm doing my pencils and inks? Yeah, if you notice, I hold my pencil or pens or markers in a really funky way. And it is just a bad habit I got into as a small child. Resting it here on my ring finger instead of my middle finger. Now, sometimes I will write and draw like this. But most of the time I switch to this. It's strictly a bad habit. Since I was like 7. So, yeah. What do I like to do besides drawing? I like to hang out with my friends. I like to watch TV. I like to, yeah, and draw. I love drawing. It's hard to say. I mean, so much of my life is drawing. So let's see, now back to Spidey. What do I need next? So we got him. Let's get his webs colored here. So I'm going to use some BG34. Let's see, Cintiq. I might have missed your question, A2x7. I do use the Wacom Studio, Mobile Studio Pro for some digital art that I'm just now gotten into doing this year. Really like it. A lot for me to learn. I've got a lot to learn. But I'm assuming your initial question was about digital art. Unless you're responding to another viewer here and y'all are talking about something and your answer was Cintiq, then I apologize for getting in the middle of your conversation. But you weren't directing your comment to anyone, so I assumed it was for me. So it's kind of a bluish green here, a BG34. Let's bring in some BG90 for the kind of highlight area. Do comic artists need a college education to work for Marvel? Or to even just work in comics in general? No, I do not believe. I personally believe. Now, you need to ask Marvel or other publishers what their requirements are. But I do not believe you have to have a college education. I do have a technical school education. I went to the Art Institute. And it's never come into play as far as being hired because it's my storytelling and art skills that have gotten me work, more so than saying I have an Associate of Applied Arts degree in visual communications. That's never been a topic. It's can you draw well, and can you meet deadlines? You know, can you be professional? So that's really critical. That's definitely something to keep in mind. So let's start adding some colors here to Venom, and then we'll add color to the rubble. So I'm going to use some B000 to start in on his spider. Now we're going to be adding grays to this. It's not going to be quite so blue, but just starting with a blue base here that I'll then add grays on top of to start to shadow and shape it out. And we'll do the same for his eyes, similarly to Spider-Man's lenses. Ever thought of being an animator? I had thought about it, but I just love drawing comics too much. If someone's starting out drawing, what paper should you use, or should you go digital? I say draw the way you like. If you prefer drawing digital, go digital. If you prefer paper, go paper. For sure. As far as what kind of paper, some cool gray 1 now. Going over that light blue with a cool gray 1. to make a bluish gray. If you want to be a comic book artist and you want to draw traditionally, you want to look into getting Bristol board when you can afford it. I'm going to use this same cool gray in Spidey's lenses here. So it's a bluish gray. And it's going to come in with a little cool gray to kind of add a little more dark. All right, now let's drop in some neutral grays. Going to start with a neutral 5 here for Venom. I like to use neutral grays for anything that, any kind of gray that would come out of a black area, because I think it kind of transitions really nicely for the standard black. You can use cool gray if you want. You could even use warm gray, but I personally prefer neutral gray. How would I recommend shading with inked black areas? You might want to check out part 2 of this process where I did the inking. I kind of addressed some of that. So, but real quick, while we're here, similarly with colors, I consider the light source, and each part of the body is a shape, and you just leave white on the part where the light is hitting, like here on his head, and then dark on the shape that goes down in front. You kind of think of them in a three-dimensional sort of way. So it's really good to study your anatomy and the shapes of the body parts. Because they're not exactly geometrical shapes, but they're shapely enough nonetheless. You kind of think of them in cube and cylinder and conical type shapes. Has anyone requested a character as a commission that I didn't know who the character was? Yes, that has happened before. But thankfully, with Google Images, if it's a character I choose to take on as a commission, I can then reference that character with a Google image search to figure out how to draw that character. But most people ask for Marvel or DC characters from me, so most of those I know from my head. Any tips for writers breaking into the business? That might be a better question for you to ask a pro writer, because I've never had to break into the business as a writer, so I don't think I can accurately advise on that, because I don't have that experience. I broke in as an artist. But I wish you all the best with your writing, and I hope you're able to score a job in comics someday. Any advice for studying good anatomy? Interesting question. Interesting way to phrase it. Good anatomy. Could you unpack that a little bit for me? What do you mean by good anatomy? Like, I'm not sure if I understand the specifics of your question. I want to make sure I answer it as accurately as possible. Can Bristol paper take watercolor paint? I think it can, but I prefer to use watercolor artboard because it's made for it and it doesn't buckle quite as much. Have I drawn Jason Voorhees? No, I have not. For those of y'all that don't know who Jason Voorhees is, he's Jason from the Friday the 13th movies. Okay, now we're going to come in with, see, that was the neutral 5. We're going to come in with some neutral 4. Just a little bit here. I'll save some room for the neutral 3. Oh, I missed those last 2 questions. They faded out by the time I noticed they'd come in. Feel free to repost, gang. That goes for anyone posting questions. If you just tuned in, I try my best to answer questions as well as I can while I work, but so much of my focus is going into the art, I oftentimes miss questions. So It's never personal. It's just business. Let's go to the neutral 3 now. So yeah, it's hard to catch the questions a lot of the times. But I do appreciate everyone posting and everyone's support. Absolutely. Oh, studying anatomy to make a good drawing while making the anatomy correct. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to clarify. That helps me answer a bit more accurately. I would say you can look at some of the anatomy masters. Like, now I learned from Bern Hogarth, Burne Hogarth, and because that's who they taught in my anatomy classes at the Art Institute. That's who my instructor liked. That's who they taught us from. That's who I learned from. So, and you can check out his books. Also, Andrew Loomis is really popular, and I'm sure there are others. I just can't think of their names right now. So you can look at that, and that's good for getting sort of a foundation. But then also just look at life. Just look at real life and look at the shapes that people make. Try to draw from real life whenever possible. I know I like to, and I feel like I level up whenever I draw from real life, because I'm now doing a translating the real world through my filter rather than looking at another comic book artist's work and putting their filter through my filter, which can be done, and I think every artist does that, especially when we're starting off. And I'm still inspired by so many of my favorite artists from back in the day to present day. But I find I have my most growth personally when I draw from real life whenever possible. So just, yeah, use photo reference, and hopefully those life drawing people like Bern Hogarth or Andrew Loomis or whoever else you find are beneficial for you as well. Hopefully that answers your question. So let's work on Venom's tongue here now. I'm going to use some shades of pink. I'm going to start with a darker pink first, RV95. Got to leave room for his saliva. He's a slobbery feller. A little RV32, RV32. Going to use some cool gray, or not cool gray, warm gray. I want his teeth to look a bit more dingy, so I'm going to start with a warm gray 0. How long does it take to learn foreshortening? You know, I'd say it's different for each person. You know, some people might pick it up really quick. Some people might have to really work at it. And I think no matter how quick you pick it up, you're always going to learn something new. You're always going to learn how to do it a little bit better as you continue your art journey. It's rare that we learn it once and then have mastered it to a point where we can't learn something new. Now a little warm gray 1. So how long can it take? You know, ultimately, I think one could say it could take a lifetime. But hopefully you can learn enough of it to get your art going, to get confident in trying to draw with foreshortening, because foreshortening really is great. It makes it really fun to create depth. So learning foreshortening is, I think, very critical. I think someone had said, who are my biggest influences? A question I often get, and I love answering it, because these 4 artists, I consider them my foundational 4 is what I call them. I've been influenced by and inspired by tons of artists, but my foundational 4 as a teenager, my favorite X-Men artists, Arthur Adams, Rick Leonardi, Walter Simonson, and Alan Davis. They were drawing the X-Men comics, or some of my favorite X-Men comics of the late 80s, and were highly, highly influential to a young Todd Nauck. So let's get a little green, put a very light shade of green here for the saliva on Venom's tongue. He's just got stank breath, so stank that the saliva is actually green. I missed that last question. So sorry. I was focusing on Venom saliva. Gonna put in a little, let's see, I was some G40, now it's some YG03, just to punch up some parts here, really let that green come to life. Any advice for drawing from the imagination? Relax, let go, have fun. You know, it's just, that's the fun thing about drawing from our imagination, is that we can just let it be. I'm gonna come in with a little extra darker gray here. I want to sculpt this out a little bit more, some cool gray 3. So yeah, I'd say just try, just keep at it. It might not look perfect, but that's okay. You're gonna learn as you go. So keep at that. Definitely keep at that. I want to put a little of this cool gray 3. If I said warm gray 3, I meant to say cool gray. I actually would put a little cool gray 3 here in the inside of his mouth to shadow out the inner parts of his mouth just a little bit. All right, so let's see. This is coming along pretty swimmingly. Let's start coloring some rubble here. Gonna add some E34. It's kind of a brownish shade. So I'm just gonna sculpt in different shades of brown here, and grays. Probably want the browns here against Venom here, as opposed to the grays, because he's mostly gray. And if they were grays, if I used gray rubble, they probably wouldn't stand out very well against him. Which character do I not draw very often? I would probably say Swamp Thing, Man Thing. Any of the vegetation-based characters aside from Groot. Let's see, let's try some E31. Bit of a lighter shade of that family, of the E3 family. Let's come in with a little, let's change up the shade to an E84. It's a little darker. Even use it, just let the colors kind of overlap a smidge. Some E55. Do I ever have a problem with micron smearing? The micron smearing when I take the Copic markers over them? If that's the question, it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. It's not to say it never happens, but it's pretty rare because multi-liners are pretty much made to work with Copic markers. Either the Copic multiliners or the Pigma Micron multiliners, or most any other multiliner, the inks are compatible. So I really rarely ever have problems with smearing. It's not to say it doesn't happen, but it's just pretty rare. Now some warm gray. I'm going to start working some warm gray in here. So this is a warm gray 4. So I'm just cutting in some. Going to cut some shadows here underneath Venom's foot, Spidey's foot. Just kind of cutting in some shapes here. That's what I like about the what's this called? Brush tip. The brush tip. It's very, you can really kind of cut in the colors, or the color with in shapes. Let's power down to a warm gray 2. Use a light color here where my signature is, and I'll add the date there, so I don't want it to get too dark, where you can't see the dark line art or pen marker lines. What advice do I have for left-handers? I am not left-handed, so I don't think I can advise. You might want to find out which artists are left-handed. I think Eric Larson might be left-handed, and he's the only left-hander that I think of. I'm pretty sure he is. If he's not, Eric, my sincere apologies for outing you as a left-hander if you're not a left-hander. Hopefully it's okay that I outed you as a left-hander. I don't think that would, I think that's pretty public knowledge if you've seen him at a convention. You've probably seen him draw and then seen him use his left hand. So you want to find out which comic book artists are left-handers and see if they have advice. So yeah, I wish I could advise on that, but I'm a righty, so I should learn how to draw with my left hand though. See what just so I could be ambidextrous. Heck, I'd give my left arm to be ambidextrous. Now some cool gray 4 here. I was using some warm gray 2. That was that lighter shade of warm gray, if I didn't mention it. Any original characters or comics in the works? Still working on my creator-owned series Wild Guard. Still working on that short story. Slowly making progress on that. I've switched to doing it all digital now. I was working on doing it as a watercolor story. Now I'm doing it as a digital story instead. Drawing it digitally. Helps me practice my digital penciling and inking at the very least. It's a little neutral gray 4 there. Just bringing in different shades of brown and gray to render this so it looks like stone and concrete. So let's see, what color did I want to do next? I think I'm pretty good here. Let's come in with a little E11, a very light shade of brown. Just to add a little more earthy tones. And there we go. So now I need to, let's see, let's add some shadows to Spidey. What do you say? What do you say, everybody? I'm hoping you're all saying yes, because we have no other choice. Going to start with some cool gray 3. So I'm, again, considering the shapes of Spidey. Like considering, like, that's where his nose would be. Putting a little shadow there for the nose, bringing it down to his chin. My YouTube channel was recommended by James Reyes, the box office artist. Well, I'm honored. I didn't know James knew who I was or knew about my channel. I don't think he and I have ever met, but I really appreciate him giving me a shout out. Thanks so much, James. Let James know I say thank you if I don't get a chance to thank him myself. So this cool gray 3 is a little lighter than what I wanted. So, but it's going to be a nice base, and I'm going to come in with a little darker shade of cool gray so that I can really bring home those shadows, really punch them up to the level that I want them to be at. But right now, this is a good, subtle, getting some subtle shading going. It's just mostly on the opposite side of where my light source is coming from. Do I know any Brazilian comic artists? Do I ever? Oh my gosh, some of my dearest friends in the comics industry are Brazilian comic artists. Let's see, I can say Eben Reis, Rod Reis, Joe Prado, Breno, I forget Breno's last name. Breno Mura, Bretta Mura is who he goes by. What his handle is on the Instagram. Those are 4 that come off right at the top of my head, and I think I might have a few more. Now a little cool gray 4 here. But yeah, love the Brazilians. The Brazilians, not only awesome artists, awesome guys as well. So yes, definitely love my friends from Brazil. Hope to come out down to their part of the world sometime for CCXP and be a guest at their convention someday. I know they're trying to get me down that way. Ever met Mark Bagley? I have. I've been a fan of his since I was younger, and it was really great getting a chance to meet him. Really nice guy as well as fantastic artist. Any Mexican artists? Have you heard of Humberto Ramos, Paco Medina, Edgar Delgado, Carlo Barberi, a dear friend Carlo Barberi. Gosh, anyone else that I... Yeah, I'd say those were the 4 that I know, I've met personally and know really well. If I'm forgetting another one of my Mexican artist friends, my sincerest apologies. My brain has totally checked out there. But definitely can say Humberto, Paco, Edgar, and Carlo, as far as artists that work for Marvel and DC. So I really love dropping the cool gray in over the warm gray colors. It really gives that kind of realistic sort of shadowy feel, shadowy shading feel. So that's just over there on the reds. Now we'll add it to the blues. Again, just using it on the opposite side of the light source, or if anything's being covered up, like the arm covering up the leg there. Argentinian artists. Let's see. The only Argentinian artist that I've met, he doesn't live in Argentina now, but he is a mega master. I consider him a mega master. He lives in the States now. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Phenomenal artist. I mean, he is one of the best, I think, ever to draw comics. Any comic book, any pro nowadays, us fairly newer guys or fairly newer guys. I'm not quite the new guy anymore. But, man, we meet Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and we are in awe. The guy is a mega master, and I know he's from Argentina. Very sweet man, too. Oh, yes, Ariel Olivetti. Yes, he's my friend. We got to meet at London Film and Comic Con last year. Yes, he's my other Argentinian artist friend. Thank you for reminding me. I love Ariel. Love his art, love the guy. So, yes, definitely. And he still lives in Argentina, so I do have an artist friend who's Argentinian that lives in Argentina. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I'd have felt bad if I'd forgotten Ariel. He's awesome. And that's a little cool gray 6. Just need a little darker cool gray in there for the blues. So let's see. I'm going to punch up some of the shadows here in Venom here. So I'm going to pump up to a neutral gray 6. Just on the opposite side of the light source. Just going to punch up these grays, these darker areas, to give a little pop in certain places. Whoa, a lot of questions going by. Holy moly. Am I excited for Inktober? I look forward to seeing what people post. Absolutely. Yes, it's always fun to see what people do for Inktober. So put a little darker shade right there on the front of... Oops, I was off screen. I'm so sorry. I put a little darker shade here. Just kind of reenacting what I did. Little instant replay. Adding some little darker shades right here on the front of the knuckles. It just kind of gives some more dimension. The shapes, the planes of Venom's hands there. Little darker shades right through here. Who's my favorite character to draw? Pretty much superheroes. Marvel, DC. Love drawing just about anybody. But I am a huge X-Men fan, so if I had the choice of, people could say, it's Todd, it's free draw. You can draw whoever you want. I'd probably draw an X-Men character. That's why you see so many X-Men post-it notes from me. Because I've been a fan of those the X-Men since I started reading comics as a teen. Since I guess I was 13 years old. What markers did I use before Copics? Back in the 90s, I used a brand called Tria, T-R-I-A. Used those all the way up into the early mid-2000s. Then in 2009, I switched over to Copics. And something about Todd McFarlane. I've met him, real nice guy. Haven't seen him lately, but the times that I did meet him, he was really cool to me. So, but yeah, I don't get to see him all that often. But I have met him before. Favorite X character? I have lots of favorites, but right now, currently, my favorite, Kitty Pryde. Love Kitty Pryde. I like that she's smart, she's funny, she's a leader. She's got a pet dragon. Have I ever used Koh-i-Noor rapidographs for inking? I did. Back in the 90s, I did. And they were good enough. They're more of a technical pen, so they're good for technical illustrations, but you can't really get variations of line weights with them, so I don't like using those for inking anymore. At least not for inking figure work. If I have to ink like a skyscraper, perfect. But when I'm inking my figure work, I need more life from my lines, and I don't feel that rapidographs really give that because they don't have a bendable nib. Or at least it doesn't bend enough for my taste to really get the variation of line weight that I want. How do I know the line between done and overworked? That's a sliding scale. You learn from experience. There are pieces that I've worked and overworked. If I'm ever in question, if I'm ever in questions like, do I need to do a little something more to this or not? If I have the time, if I'm not under a tight deadline, I step away from it. I put it down, I step away. Oops, I was off camera again, just adding a little shadow underneath that one finger. I step away, come back and look at it a little later on, maybe the next day if I have the luxury, and then see, is it done or do I need to add a little something more? So if I'm ever in question, I stop. That's my cue to stop working at it. I might be tired, I might be not thinking clearly. Step away, recharge, come back. Now I'm going to just add a little bit of a background shade behind them, just so they're not in this white void with a bunch of rocks. Oh, I see one little rock that I didn't color, and I want it to be colored. Go with a little E13 right there. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. So, I'm going to come in with some BG90. Just a very subtle bluish, greenish shade that won't overpower Venom or Spidey, but just lets me kind of texturize the background just a bit. Just gives, hopefully will give them just a little more pop. Am I excited for Young Justice Season 3? Yes, I am. Yeah. They left us hanging with a cliffhanger on Season 2, so I look forward to seeing what they do with Season 3. And I'm curious to see what they might incorporate from the Young Justice comics into Season 3. Now, I'm assuming everyone has watched Seasons 1 through 2. I don't want to give out any spoilers if people haven't had a chance to go to Netflix and binge the first 2 seasons. So... So just sculpting all around, just kind of brushing in some color here. Just gives them a little bit of a background color to exist against. Doesn't have to be anything major or dark. Alright, so let's see, I want to get a little bit of cool gray 4 here, put a little bit of a horizon line in Spidey's goggles, or the lenses I should say, of his mask. Kind of reflecting the horizon in the distance, or on the other side of him. So let's take that same cool gray 4. Now I'm kind of in a point of where I just look and see where do I want to punch things up just a little bit. Add a little darker shade under certain places, just to give them a little more sculpt, a little more pop. The old popskis. Yes. All right, so let me add my date for the day we finish this piece. So today is the 30th, right? 30th of September, 2017. Then boom, there we go. Spidey, let's take a look. I can always find something new to do. Not quite done yet. Let's add a couple little highlights to his mask. Let's add some highlights and bits of slobber and saliva popping out of Venom, and we'll highlight on his eyes there, reflecting there. And a few little highlights here along the web. There's a little subtle thing. But sometimes these little extra ticks, these little bops and dots, can just give just a little bit of something for the viewer's eye to play with. And that's it. That's the finished piece. So what I'll do is I'll flip the camera around. We'll do a little Q&A to see if I can catch some of the questions I might have missed. So let me flip this around, and we'll chat here. Hey, there we go. All right, let me flip the rig around. People ask what rig I use. It's a Best Tech gooseneck arm gooseneck arm clamp. If you search Best Tech, hey everybody, you should be on Amazon. You should be able to find it. It's $10, really reasonably priced. Amazon Prime, free shipping. It's good. So were there any questions? I'll let y'all queue up your questions. In the meantime, I will let y'all know. You can see this, a scan of this piece on my social media. Art of Todd Nauck page. Search that on Facebook, at Todd Nauck on Twitter, Instagram. Go follow me on there. I'm always posting arts and stuff. So how many characters have I created? Dozens. And then my creator-owned series, all of them. Wild Guard, I created all of Wild Guard and all the characters that live in that world. I created The Secret, or co-created with a writer, Secret and Empress for Young Justice. At Marvel, I co-created Nurse Arrow with Peter David. I co-created The Stinger, a brand new Deadpool villain that debuted in Spider-Man and Deadpool issue 21 that came out just this past week. Do I have a copy of Spider-Man Deadpool? Yes. Spider-Man Deadpool with Remark. This will be available at New York Comic Con. Come by my table if you're interested in purchasing one of these. So I will show y'all. The camera's over here, but I'm reading comments over here, so that's why I'm looking over this way. Our character Stinger right there. He's got a sword on his butt. Yes, brand new villain. So let Marvel know you want to see more of Stinger. Hashtag it. More Stinger, please, or whatever. I don't know. You come up with your hashtags. But yeah, brand new character. So that's another character I created just this past summer. As far as any other characters, it's hard to remember. I've created a lot of supporting characters for Young Justice and things like that. But how much collaboration with writers do you have when you're working on a comic? Depends on how the writer writes. If they write full script, then they pretty much have blocked out what they want, and I can make changes if I need to, or say, hey, can I do this or that? Most writers and editors are very cool to go with my ideas. When it's written Marvel style, like I did Spider-Man Deadpool, Joshua and Corin wrote it Marvel style, which is how Stan Lee wrote back when he was working with what's his name? Jack Kirby. What's his name? Brain fart. It's just basic outline of the story, and then I really get to go to town with it. Chris Claremont wrote that way with Nightcrawler, and I really got to have so much fun just kind of taking the story and taking it up another level. So it varies. I like working both ways, but I do get I get to add a lot of input in when it's written in the Marvel or plot style. So thank you for the question. I think I saw some questions slip by, so I'll see if I can scroll back. Already getting the more Stinger hashtag going. You watch a lot of my videos, thank you. You learned a lot, thank you. Do I draw characters outside of Marvel, like Shinobi or Ninja Gaiden? No, I haven't really drawn characters like that. Not opposed to them, just haven't really had much experience or exposure to them. So nothing personal against those characters ever. See, oops, let's get the finger down so you don't have to look at my knuckles. Let's see, who are my favorite male and female Bat family members? I'd say, well, I like them all pretty much. It's hard to say one over the other. But ones I've personally interacted with creatively, Tim Drake, Robin, and Stephanie Brown, spoiler. So those would probably be two of my, if I had to say favorite male and female, I'd probably say those. But Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, all super awesome, and beyond. So, yeah. Oh, and Cassandra Cain. I did a little bit with Cassandra Cain, too. What Copic colors would I suggest starting out with? I started out with grays. Some warm, the even-numbered warm and cool grays, just to experiment with. Realized I loved them, and then bought the odd-number warm and cool grays, and then from there started buying colors. So I went to... People always ask me, and I've said this before in other broadcasts. I'll say it again here now. I don't buy sets. People ask, what set should I buy? I don't know. I don't buy sets because I don't want to be relegated to the colors that I'm limited to in that set. I go to my art supply store, which is fortunately nearby. I can drive there and then test out the colors and pick and choose the ones I want to buy. So, yeah, that's how I built up my collection. Started off with some basic reds, blues, greens, browns, etc., and then just built out from there. It took me a while to build up the collection I have now, but it's okay to slow go it. So, let's see. Can I draw Static Shock one day? I should draw him someday, yes. Did I make a choice to draw in the style that I draw in a way, yeah, yeah. It's just what inspired me. Because cartoons, U.S. and the few Japanese cartoons I got to watch growing up as a kid, I found inspirational, and then U.S. comics, especially the X-Men comics, I found inspirational. So that kind of walks the line between cartoony and realism, like on the spectrum, cartoony and realism. I wanted to be like my favorite artist, kind of right there in the middle, in between those two. So that's always been my goal, is to have walk that line. Do I have any plans for Inktober? Not at the moment. I don't know if I have time to do Inktober this year. So I'll be gone for a week for New York Comic Con, so that's going to eat up a lot of time. I'm going to miss a lot of days of Inktober. I'm probably going to miss a quarter of Inktober as it is, so not sure. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. When will I do another character mashup? Hopefully soon. Stay tuned to Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. That's where I do my character mashups. Then I upload them to here. But if you want to participate, you need to be sure you're following me on Facebook.com/Art of Todd Nauck. See, I think I missed another question or two. Favorite writer to work with? Is all of them an appropriate answer? I've worked with a lot of great writers. Peter David on Young Justice and Spider-Man, Jeff Johns and Marv Wolfman on Teen Titans, Jay Torres on the cartoon Teen Titans comic, Eric Stevenson on Newman back in the early Extreme Studios days. Most recently, very most recently, I've gotten to work with, Joshua Corin, Elliot Kalan, Robbie Thompson. But I gotta say, as an X-Men fan, getting to do 12 issues, a whole year on Nightcrawler with legendary X-Men writer Chris Claremont, who I grew up reading, that is like, it's like a whole nother level. It's just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm working with Chris Claremont. Real nice guy, really complimentary of the work I did, really meant a lot. So that was a big geek out moment. Also, Louise Simonson. I grew up reading her X-Men comics, X-Factor and New Mutants, and I got to do a Iron Man Dazzler team-up story with her years ago, and that was another one of those moments like, oh my gosh. So, because I really like Louise. She's awesome. She invited me to call her Wheezy, so that you know you're in when she says, call me Wheezy. Do I like to draw mech and machines? Sometimes, yeah. Who's my least favorite character to draw? Jokingly, we have discussed here on my broadcast Galactus. Awesome character, classic Kirby design, but dang it, that helmet is one tough thing to draw. So, that I would say Galactus. I should draw Predator? I should sometime. Did I miss the live stream? No, you're in the middle of it right now. Let's see. Okay, I think it's hard to tell which ones I've answered and which ones are new. Okay. How do you decide how many panels to put on a page? If the writer has written full script, they've said how many panels. If they've written it Marvel style, then that's up to me. And it all depends on how much information needs to go on the page. How do you pace the story? What experience do you want to give the viewer? It's not easy. It's easy to do 5 panels per page. For me, that gets boring if it's always 5 panels per page, 5 panels per page, 5 panels a page. I like to mix it up. I don't mind doing 5 panels a page, but if it's every page is 5 panels, enough. I want to draw splash pages, 2-panel pages, 3-panel pages, 4-panel pages, 12-panel pages. I want to mix it up. And it also depends on how fast you want to move the story or how slow you want to move the story. Sometimes the fewer panels, you're moving faster. The more panels conveys a bit of slower in the time. So it all just depends on what the story calls for. Is there a pose I have drawing that is more difficult than others? Not one. I couldn't say this one pose. It's just because you don't have to consider just the pose, but the angle of the pose. The character that is doing the pose, is it someone as big as the Hulk or as small as Kitty Pryde? So there's so many different factors that come into play. How ornate is their costume? Is it torn up jeans like the Hulk, or is it spandex like Kitty Pryde, or is it armor like Iron Man or Silver Samurai? So a bajillion things to think about and consider. So I can't say there's one pose that is difficult. How many comic pages can I do in one day, and how much free time do I have? I average, just the way I work structure my work week, my project weeks and days, I average about 1 page laid out penciled and inked per day, roughly. How much free time do I have? Very little. But that's okay because I'm doing what I love. What ink pens would I suggest for a beginner, for Inktober? Whatever you have, whatever you can afford. Go for it. Now, if you're in at least, I know Southern California and Texas, I think in Arizona, there's a store called Daiso Japan, Daiso Japan. They sell these disposable brush pens, zebra brush pens, zebra like the animal, zebra brush pens. $1.50 a pen, really inexpensive when you consider a brush pen. So, because I see these for $2.50 or more online. So if you look up Daiso Japan, Daiso Japan, and you can, if you have one in your area, go and stock up. This is the fine point. This is the medium point. They also have a broad point, which is a black pen. But this isn't blue ink. This isn't gray ink. It's all black ink. But the different colored pen casings is how we determine the type of tip to the pen. So, and yeah, go pick up some pens. Tell them Todd Nauck sent you. Let's see. Oh, you met Claremont Shrimpy and Len Wein. Right on. What else did you say there? Yes, all humble. Yes, they're all good, great guys. And it's such a shame that we lost Herb Shrimpy about a year or two ago and then Len Wein this past month. So that was... My wife and I know Len, and we never got a chance to meet Herb, but we know Len, and we were shocked and so saddened to hear of his passing. Hopefully you saw the Wolverine tribute posted that I did in honor of Len. Yeah, great guy. So sorry to have lost him. But Chris is still with us, so if you ever get a chance to meet Chris, make sure you say hi. I should draw Pennywise. Yeah, a lot of people have suggested that. Would I consider drawing Spawn or Doomsday? I definitely would consider drawing either of those characters, and one of them might show up on my channel sooner than you think, so stay tuned, and be sure you're subscribed. If y'all are watching for the first time and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, be sure you click the old subscribe button. Costs you nothing, so easy to do, and you can also, right there where it says subscribe, the word subscribe, there's a little bell. You can click that bell and set your notification preferences. So you can get updates as whenever I'm doing a live broadcast, it'll ping you and let you know, hey, Todd's broadcasting. Go. Drop what you're doing. Put down that baby and go watch Todd Nauck. Stop eating that sandwich. You can eat your sandwich while watching me. You know, you can actually watch me while holding a baby, so don't drop the baby. Please don't drop babies. When I say drop the baby, I mean set the baby down gently. I want to make sure I put that out there. Please treat your babies right. Because I believe the children are our future. Do I think I have enough time? I could draw Hellboy. Right now, no, I don't have enough time to start another piece. But maybe we'll see some Hellboy in the future. Do I listen to music while drawing? If so, what music? Let's see. Some of my favorite stuff, late 80s, early 90s, college rock or alternative rock, because I was kind of in college in the early 90s. Also like 80s, just full-on 80s music, because I grew up in the 80s. And I like the Aquabats. Aquabats are really fun to draw, or listen to. And I have drawn them for fun, so they are fun to draw as well. Good guys too, I've met them. They're really, really cool guys. Big fans of their music. What do I think is the best way to learn to draw anatomy? Drawing. Just keep drawing. You gotta keep drawing. Keep that pencil moving, because you learn as you go. And it's not like you learn it, then you start drawing. You draw, you make your mistakes, you learn from your mistake, you adapt for the next drawing, and hopefully it's a little bit better the next time. So you got to keep doing it. Keep repeating. Repeat. Because hopefully each time you're leveling up. It's a slow process, but if you're not working the process, you're going to stay down here. You're not going to get to here. And if you get to here, you got to keep going so you can get to here and on up. But if you stop, then you've plateaued, and it might start to diminish. So keep on drawing. That's my best advice, because that's what I did. That's the way I did it. I mean, I did have some life drawing classes, and they helped, but that was back in the 90s. I still continue to learn to this day, because there's always something new to learn. I believe. See, there are a few more questions, and then we'll need to sign off. Is this my first live stream? It's my third live stream. Welcome to number 30. I number my live streams so people can know which order to watch them in. Let's see. Do I watch Gotham? I do not. I am so far behind in all the superhero shows. I've only watched one full season of all those shows, and that's Supergirl season 1. All the rest, and I'm only gotten to like 5 episodes of Supergirl season 2, and then all the other shows just a couple of episodes in. So yeah, it's not good how far behind I am. You want to change October to Knocktober? Let's see what we can do about that. Let's hashtag that. Is that the sign for hashtag? That, or I got an itch. Let's see. Did I always want to be a comic book artist? No, not always. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be Spider-Man. So we cut out there, which is not bad. That's only our second time to cut out in this broadcast. So let's wrap up the story in a couple more questions, and we'll sign off. But I don't know where we cut off, but things I wanted to do when I was little: fireman, astronaut, veterinarian, actor, until I got into comics. And once I made my first mini comic at age 14, I knew that day, age 14, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I was like 14 and a half. And since then, nothing else. Nothing else. This was my dream, and I went for it. And yeah, I'll share more about that in a future Q&A or a future frequently asked question. I only have one up in my new playlist of series where I want to just do 5-minute videos where I address certain things, questions that I often get. Let's see, I saw a few more questions. We'll see if I can tackle a couple of these, then we'll sign off. Do I always want to be a comic artist? Yes. Do I like young time-displaced Cyclops or the Magneto-like Cyclops? I like young time-displaced Cyclops because he's more true to the Cyclops I grew up on. The story progressed to where he became more Magneto-like, the mutant, I hate using the word terrorist, but I guess that's what they called him in the story. Didn't really like that Cyclops. I don't like that he progressed to that. So, but now that Cyclops is dead, but whoever stays dead in the Marvel Universe, besides Uncle Ben, he's the only one. Everyone else comes back somehow. So when Marvel 616 Cyclops or present-day Cyclops comes back, hopefully he won't be so Magneto-like, and he'll be more like the 80s Cyclops, which, in my opinion, the best of the Cyclops, like mid-80s to early 90s, like to the Jim Lee era. Let's see. Advice for people. I was going to sign off, but y'all have such great questions here. I want to see if I can address these. So, advice for people who feel they never feel good about the progress, but others say it's good. Yes, I've dealt with this. I think every artist deals with this, and this is called perfectionism. And in some ways, perfectionism can be okay because it will hopefully push us to strive to do better in our work, because we want to strive to do better, to always try to do the best work we can. But we have to be careful not to always beat ourselves up and to always be so unsatisfied, because I was like that until about 10 plus years ago. I realized this isn't working for me. When I have other people, and I had other pros saying they like my work, it's like, how can they like my work when their work is so awesome? It's like they see the art the way they do, and I see my art the way I do. And when I learned that I'm the only one who can see it from this direction, everyone else sees it from this direction, I can't tell those people how to see the artwork. They see it how they see it, just like I see other people's artwork the way I do. But only I can see it for me because it came from inside of me onto the paper. And so I know every flaw. Yeah, and that's where I had to learn to have grace on myself. When I started having grace on myself and stopped worrying so much and stopped beating myself up for all the ways I think I failed, and just saw it as, that's what I could do at this time. Can I learn from it and then the next drawing do a little bit better or find a new way to solve that problem? Then I'm progressing. Got to remember to have fun. If I'm having fun, then the experience is just better for me. I'm usually happier with what I've drawn. I'm happier with it. I feel good about it. Or at least I feel better about it than I could be if I'm just, this one little bit right here, that one rock is terrible. I failed. Tear it up. Yeah, and I learned, let go, relax. Aaron Rodgers style, RELAX, relax. Have fun. Then I found I was progressing faster. I was getting better faster because I wasn't carrying this burden. I think our art, we learn things with our head, absolutely. A lot of things we have to learn with our brain. We also have to learn with our heart and our gut. We have to learn the emotional aspect to it. And what is our brain and heart and gut telling us? Because if we're all just up here, not good. And we don't want to be all just in one area. So we got to find that balance, and it's not easy to do. But if we look to have fun, look to have grace on ourselves, and also look to be realistic. What are the things we need to work on? Are we avoiding certain difficult areas in our art? And I learned that lesson long ago as well. Then if we're working on those things, then we're probably going to find we're progressing at a bit of a better rate than if we're just always unhappy. And some people, maybe that's just the way they're built and that's the way they are, and that's cool too. That's all right. I'm just speaking from my experience because you asked what's my advice, and so I can only speak from my experience. So hopefully this encourages you, at least in some way, in how to approach your art. And for me, that's why I always say keep on drawing, keep having fun. 2 critical pieces if you're going to be on this journey. And art sounds kind of hippie-like, but until I find a better way to say it, it's a journey because we're always learning, we're always growing, just like in life. Art, life, same way. How we treat others, how we treat our art, a lot of similar overlaps there. So, yeah. Hopefully you don't mind me kind of going up on that. But it's something I feel passionately about. And grace is a huge part. And I think we need that not only for ourselves in our art, but just in everyday life and how we treat others and how we interact with others. Because without grace, then we got bitterness. And where does bitterness lead to? Just hatred and anger. Dude, that's not how we were built. And so I think we need a lot more grace. That's what I believe. Grace. So, gang, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I think that's a note we're just going to go out on. Got a little deep there, but like I said, I feel passionately about it, and I care about y'all, all you young artists, just like people cared about me. So I hope this encourages you in some way. I hope y'all had fun today. And again, this piece will be up on my social media, and I have some plans for how someone might be able to attain this piece. There's been a lot of problems here with natural disasters of late, earthquakes and hurricanes. So I just finished doing a month of Post-it note sketches where all the proceeds went to benefit Hurricane Harvey relief. And that ended today. So now I want to turn my focus to the people who are struggling in Mexico City after the huge earthquake, and also the people who are dealing with Hurricane Irma in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of problems in Puerto Rico, and we need to help out however we can. So this sketch cover is going up for auction. I'll be putting this up for auction on eBay probably tomorrow. Stay tuned to all my social media or toddnauck.com for a link to how you can bid on this piece. 100% of the proceeds, all the money that comes in for this piece, will go to benefit Mexico City. Then I'll have another piece I'll be posting, another sketch cover. It's already drawn. Not sure which one, but I have it off here to the side. I'll save it for now because I'm not sure which one will go up. But that one will go up to benefit those in Puerto Rico. So our hearts and prayers go out to our friends in Mexico City, in Puerto Rico, in Houston, and across the country and world. So again, I was signing off, and now let me just officially sign off. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out. Always great to hang out with y'all, and hopefully I'll see y'all again real soon. Hopefully I'll see you at New York Comic Con next week. New York Comic Con 2017. All the best, everybody. Peace.